We all have TV at our homes, right? Now imagine a TV without a remote. Unimaginable, right? Now think of a design of the TV remote which is designed so clearly and depicts so clearly every function that a user would need and would need to understand to interact with the TV, like to change the channels or to increase the volume. So, UI design is that medium which the user uses to interact with the product in order to achieve a particular task. So let's welcome on stage Mr. Rivu Chakraborty, Senior Software Engineer at BYJU'S, organizer GDG Kolkata, who will enlighten us upon composing UI. Please welcome him on stage.
Hello, Baroda. So, can anyone tell me which monument is this? Is it from Baroda or somewhere else? Exactly. My talk isn't really on UI design, but writing UI code. I'm not a kind of like good at designing things, but I think I am quite good at converting it to code. Here's a little bit introduction or information about me. I am a learner. I am a senior software engineer at BYJU'S, the learning app. And I am founder organizer of Kotlin Kolkata user group. I have been using Kotlin for more than 5 years now. Talking on Kotlin for more than 3 years. And I talk on Android and Kotlin. Today, I am going to talk mainly on Android, though it uses Kotlin. And I have authored a couple of, or 3 books, and if you buy them, I will get a little bit royalty, which will help me writing more books. Yeah. So, as I said, I work at BYJU'S, the learning app. And if you haven't seen this logo before or haven't heard of BYJU'S, the learning app, then get some life. Go watch TV or at least cricket match. We are on the official Indian t-shirt right now. Also, we are hiring. So you can mail me your CV. I would recommend sending me your CV only for tech roles, because for non-tech roles, what I can do is that I can forward them to HR, and remaining process is the same. So for tech roles, I can help you out. Yeah. So before we begin, I have a couple of questions to you. How many of you are Android developers? Nice. And how many of you have used Kotlin? Good. How many of you love writing XML? Okay, if you love writing XML, then this session, I'm sorry to say, but this session is not for you. I don't love writing XML. I have to write, but I don't love writing XML. If I can, I will write everything in Kotlin or Java. So the first 2 sessions today was about declarative UI. So how many of you love declarative UI? So few? Pavan Kumar, what did you do? Okay. Anyone familiar with functional programming, reactive approach? Okay. That's good. State management. So how many of you try to manage states in Android app in some way or other? Anyone? Okay. I am asking a lot of questions. It's like I am taking your interview, but it's not really like that. And it's the last question. Have you heard of DSL? Okay. So Another thing before we begin, this is a person who works at Google in the Jetpack Compose team. And he talks a lot about Jetpack Compose to outside world in various groups, in various channels. He gives talk, and I learned a lot about Jetpack Compose from him as well. Now, what this talk covers. Why should we care? How to use Jetpack Compose, how Compose works, and how to manage states with Compose, the most important thing of this talk. Now, why should we care? So, how many of you heard of Jetpack Compose actually, before coming here? So few. Are you sure you didn't heard of Jetpack Compose? Don't you watch Google I/O? How many of you watched Google I/O this year? How many of you watched the session by Roman Gee and Chethas in Google I/O this year? The sessions by Roman Gee and Chethas? Only one. Okay. So, can you tell me which logo is it? Yeah. How many of you watched the video by Pavan Kumar today morning? Can you find any similarity? Okay. Exactly. That was what I was looking for. Swift UI. Yeah. It seems a lot more popular. I don't expect anyone shouting out name, because this is quite an uncommon logo. Have you heard of Litho, anyone? Litho. It's built by Facebook for declarative UI in Android native. Why are you so, are you sleeping? I am sleepy, by the way, and I may fall asleep any moment. And and if you continue that, I will probably sleep right now. I can't hear you. Again? No. Everyone is sleeping. Yeah. So, what's the similarity? Why did I put all those icons in my slide? So, all of them solve one problem. No one wants to write UI in XML or things like that. So, all of them solves that problem. They are all declarative UI solutions. I don't know about others, but Jetpack Compose is both reactive and functional. So, functional declarative UI is on the rise to become the way of doing UI. It is presently one of the way to do UI, but it will soon become the way. It's an estimation by me and other industry experts. Now, what are the benefits in declarative UI? First of all, separation of concerns. Secondly, declarative, functional, or reactive. DSL. What do we mean DSL? I will cover later. It's developer friendly. How? We'll soon see. And yeah, that's all. Have you anyone know his name or know who he is? It was a tweet by Saket Narayan. And anyone heard his name, Saket Narayan? Yeah. So he's presently the only Android GDE from India. The only Android GDE. And he tweeted that a month ago. Everyone hates writing XML because it not only is complex, it blocks Android system as well, Android Studio as well. So why that happens while writing XML? Why Android Studio freezes? Because every time you write an XML code, it gets auto-compiled to a Java. it gets added to the r.java file. And all of this complexity eats up the memory. We blame Android Studio for memory eating, and this adds up to that. So there's double memory eating, or say triple memory eating, and Android Studio just can't work anymore. And sometimes your Mac doesn't work anymore, or laptop doesn't work anymore because Android Studio has eaten all the memories. Jetpack Compose introduces flattened UI. And now, what I mean by flattened UI, you will soon see. But it saves the memory, less compile time overhead. Always, so when you are compiling XML, it's gonna take more processing time, more compile time overhead than when you are compiling a Java or Kotlin file. Better performance, less memory wastage, and easier state management. Now, how to use Jetpack Compose? There was a lot of introduction and background. I asked a lot of questions, and all of you slept already, I guess. Anyone awake? I can't hear. Yes. Yeah. Now, I am awake. Everything is fun and lambda. So in Kotlin, we write functions by starting with the word fun. Everything in Kotlin is fun. And Jetpack Compose is built on top of Kotlin, so everything here is as well fun. And lambda means when you pass a function as a parameter to another function. Java supports that from Java 8, and Kotlin supports that from all of the Kotlin versions. So anyone who writes a custom text, who has ever written a custom text? Do you love it, the process? Anyone? Okay, anyone hates it? Who hates writing custom view? Okay, no one loves it, no one hates it. That's kind of confusing. So this is how we write custom text in Jetpack Compose, or how we'll write. So just call a function, and from create a function, name it your way. I have named it custom text, easy to understand. Inside that, call text function, provide your desired values or properties, and you are all done. Now, there was an annotation at that composable. Why is there annotation processing? So as I said, Jetpack Compose is reactive, so this annotation converts my code to this one, and this is what is fed to the compiler. So let's build a simple app and see how Jetpack Compose actually works. So we have to build a counter app like this. It will, when you tap the increase button, the count will increase. And here's the text and the button. And yeah, here it is. That's what you need to write that counter app in the activity. Nothing more, and sadly nothing less. That's the whole code within the on create of the activity. So instead of set content view that we use right now, I am calling set content. And that is a high order function, but that means set content is a function that expects another function as parameter. And that another function should be a composable function. That means you will pass a composable to set content function, in simple words. Now, I will go through each of the line and I will try to explain them. First of all was the crane wrapper. I think the image quite describes the context. So whenever we build something, we need a crane, right? To build the base. Crane wrapper does that for composable. It builds the base on top of which we can write our composable. So it might get removed in future. It might get called inside the set content by default. You might not need to call it, or it might get renamed in future to something more interesting. Next one was custom theme, which is an extension of material theme. So in this app, counter app, I have used my custom theme and passed it. Though it was not required, but I used my custom theme. So How many of you write stylable or styles in XML? Okay, and do you love the process? Do you know how to debug it if some styles doesn't work? What if it was in a Kotlin file again? The styles were in Kotlin file or Java file. So it will be easy to debug, right? That's what. How you declare a custom theme in Compose. I have used the material theme. I have changed a few things like the color, the typography, that means fonts, and I have provided that. And the custom theme expects a function or composable, which it will call under the material theme. And yeah, that was it. Now we have to go into the counter app. So this is my counter app. I have a text view, I have a button. That's the zoomed version of the text view. I have provided some style and I set the text to 0. First we will design the UI and then we will move to the logic or implementation of it. Next is the button and the text is increased and there is on-click function and I have provided a shape to the button. And yeah, we are done. And I will run it. What happened? So, yeah, what happened is that I haven't provided height and width and how the views should align or compose elements should align. So they both took the match parent and button was the last element, so it sat on top of the text. And we can't see anything. Let's fix it. Added a couple of lines more. By the way, who used Flutter or React? Who used Flutter or React? When Pawan was asking that question, there was a lot of hands. I will not bite you if you use Flutter or React. Okay. If you use Flutter or React, then it will be a lot more similar. You are used to this thing. First there is column, and then there is row, then there is padding. And inside the padding, I have provided the text. So that 5 dp padding will be provided to the whole text view. And same goes for the button. I have used only one single column, and on first row, I kept the text, and on the second row, I kept the button. And yeah, finally, the design is done. UI designing is done. Now let's implement the logic. Yeah, I added probably one more line. Yeah, one more line to the code, and it works perfectly fine. So what is that one line? Yeah, zoomed version. So I created a state because whenever you clicking the button, the counter state is changing. So that's why we need a state variable. And on the text, I have said count, and then I concatenated the state value, whatever the counter state is. And in the button click, I increase the counter value. And yeah, it's working. Now, how Jetpack Compose internally works. Anyone heard of the term gap buffer? Anyone? Good, because I didn't heard about it before I started using Jetpack or started investigating Jetpack Compose. So gap buffer is just another buffer, but it's more efficient and it's used inside efficient text editors. Whatever text editor you see in current market, it's used inside them. And the Compose team renamed the gap buffer to slot table. They added a couple of more capabilities, and yeah. So earlier gap buffer there was no index, and in slot table there is a current index which points to the current element or current empty spot. And whenever you insert an item to the slot table, the current index will move to the next one. So let's see how our counter app will be stored in the memory. I said at first that Compose flattens the UI. Now, how that works? So the first thing is the state. It will go into the slot table to the first position. Index is moved to the next one, and there we are storing the actual state. And then it moved to the next element, which is text. And then the value of the text. And then it's moved to the next element, which is button, and then on-click function of the button. Now, whenever user taps on-click, the state will be changed. And as the state will be changed, the Android system or Jetpack Compose will call a recompose over this element, and all the state values will be updated. And UI will be updated automatically. No other things will be changed. There will be no addition or remove, redraw. And this is how Jetpack Compose stores the views. So presently in Android, that is how it looks, right? There is view group 1, and then there is view group 2, toolbar, text view, button. Everything is a tree or a part of the tree. And it's quite efficient to work with a tree. Sorry, it's not quite efficient to work with the tree, whenever, especially when you add or remove elements at the runtime. And that's how Compose works. Everything is like an array, just that it's more efficient. So with the array, the problem is when you insert at the beginning, that problem is solved by gap buffer, because it's an efficient editor or efficient buffer for editor. It always have empty elements. So whenever you add the elements to the start, it just shifts all the elements to the right and adds new elements to the start. Now, the main topic of my talk, how to manage states with Compose. So I am asking you, how many of you tried to manage states with Android app? No one. So what does your Android app do? Anyone? Anyone? Who are the Android developers here? Who have the apps in the Play Store? Yeah, anyone can stand up and tell me what their app does. Anyone? Yeah, please. Can anyone give him a mic or something? Yeah. Yeah, please tell me.
It's an auto-reply app to WhatsApp messages. We can schedule some messages.
So whenever there's something, you don't store the state that this reply was sent?
No, it stores the rules in room database.
So say some message came. What will be the state of your app?
It gets an event and it tries to fetch all the scheduled messages based on the rules.
Okay.
And if anyone does match.
So it happens something, right? In the UI?
No, background.
Everything is in background? Nothing happens in
this
UI?
process, just when message arrives, and because your app is not open, as this purpose of this app is like when you are away and scheduling message.
Okay, but still it got some state. Because whenever a message is received, before sending the auto reply,
yes,
and or whenever user setting up the auto reply message, he's opening the screen, he's entering something, and that is the state. So everyone writing any app have dealt with states.
yes,
That's what it is. But with Android, the problem, there are multiple architectures in Android which helps you work with states. Some of them are reactive, some of them are imperative. But yeah, there are a lot of talks in Android going on with Redux architecture. So with the Redux architecture, helps us to manage states easily. So here you have the view state class, You store each thing of the view, whether it is loading, whether it was success, whether it was failure. And if it was success, then what's the data? And then in the activity, you create intents and bind them. And then in view model, you subscribe to the intents and you just do actions based on the intents. But how many of you are used to MVI? You are scared by looking at these things, right? Yeah, I wanted you to become a bit scared. Sorry for that. And yeah. It can also happen with the presenter, but the problem lies here. Yeah. Whenever you have edit text and you add a text change listener, the state is like unmaintainable. Whenever user enters something, the state changes, you fire some event, and you get the event and you want to change the text programmatically. Now you don't know who changed the text. User changed the text or I changed the text programmatically. So every Android view has its own state. So it's a bit difficult to manage states from an activity. Problem 2, spinner. Spinner, you add some elements, list, and the problem is when you want to modify the list at the runtime, you can't do that. Like you can, but there will be a lot of hacks you need to follow because there will be always issues with that. Solution, Jetpack Compose. How? Let us see. So let us build another app, a little bit which does something, right? We don't write counter apps in our projects or day-to-day life. So this app will load something and show the data. It has a reload button. On click of that, it will again load the value and show the data. And the data is the name and email. So that's the data. Name and email, and both are string. So what can be the states for this app? That can be loading, that can be success with user as the data, and that can and there can be a failure. I didn't record the failure screen because it doesn't actually make the API call. Everything is like within the app. I didn't create an API for that. Yeah. So that's the view model. And you can also do that. I am not going to sell you MVI today. Don't get scared. You can also do that, a presenter. And how many of you are used to RX? Okay, don't get scared by seeing the observable. It just returns the data asynchronously. It's just assume it as a callback for now. You can study RX later. And whenever the user is loaded, that callback will something will be get called from that observable. When you subscribe to that, subscribing means whenever listening to that. Now let's write the code for the UI. Here's the success body, a zoomed in version. Yeah. So first we have the name, and then we put down the user.name, and then we have email, and we put down user.email, and we align, we have a reload button as we've seen in the screen, and we align that reload button to the center of the screen. And yeah, that's a zoomed out version. I didn't want you to get your eyes stressed, so that's why I showed you the zoomed in version first. That's the error body. Will just show load failed and nothing else. And yeah, there will be a reload button, so user can try again. And that's the reload button. It just has an on-click listener and a text called reload. It's again a custom button, I colored it as light gray. And this is the state that we discussed earlier. So it can be loading, it can be failure, and it can be success. And how to change the states with composable? There are two ways. First one is just create an activity and pass the presenter or the view model to the composable. So what happens with that approach? Let us see. Yeah, that's a zoomed in one, our activity, and we pass the presenter to the composable. And whenever the composable gets inflated, we call presenter.getUserAsync. And then, whenever the presenter gives you the data, we change the data value. So before that, we use the state variable. Here we are again going to use the state variable or state effect, as I can say. What is effect? Don't get, you don't need to know too much about it right now. So effect is that which observes to a state changes or everything for now. Yeah, so whenever user is loaded, that state value will be changed, and as the state value will be changed, there will be a recompose, and all the data in the screen will be updated. And on the reload, whenever user clicks on reload, we just pass the reload click. So it will be again doing the same thing. It will be calling on plus on commit, and then presenter.getUserAsync. And on that getUserAsync, whenever the user value is updated, it will update the screen again. Yeah, there's another way. For that, we need to create a data class. How many of you are familiar with data class in Kotlin? Good. So at that model class is just like a data class or a POJO class. If you are not familiar with data class, what data class is nothing but a POJO class. With that, you don't need to write getters and setters and toHash and all those kind of functions. It handles the boilerplate for you. So at that model is just another data class. And whenever some value within the model gets changed, it will recompose the screen. And yeah, we are no more using the plus state effect. We are just using the view state model within the activity. And we don't need to pass the presenter to the composable. We just pass the value of the state model instance that we created in the activity, and we pass a function, load data. So yeah, and within the load data, what we do is that we call presenter.getUserAsync. And whenever the user data is updated, we change the value of the state model that we created. And yeah, on destroy is on destroy. And within the composable, what we do is that if it is loading, then we show state is loading. If it is error, then we show the error body. If it is success, we show the success body. And in the success body and error body, there is a reload click function or lambda. As that lambda, we are passing the load data function. So whenever user clicks on reload, load data function will again get called. So yeah, we are removing that dependency that we don't need to pass the presenter to the composable. Activity is interacting with them. Activity will coordinate with them and do the needful thing. That way, both the composable stays clean, the presenter or the view model stays clean, and activity as well stays clean. It's just a communicator, nothing else. Yeah, these are the takeaways of my talk. And if you have any questions on Kotlin, on Compose, on Android, you can ask me. Yeah, please.
Couple of questions, actually.
Yeah, sure.
So I found that one of the advantage that XML approach was the preview. So do you think that we will get a preview?
I think the team will add preview.
Yeah, because it is really difficult to figure
Yeah,
out.
obviously. It's in pre-alpha stage right now. To use the Compose, you have to download the whole ASP. And I think the team will add preview pretty soon. Probably next I/O. I guess in next I/O they will release the alpha version. So probably in the alpha version or the beta version, they will add the preview.
Okay, one more thing. When using constraint layouts, it was very easy to animate the views like transition manager, begin, delete.
There are a
transition.
lot of, right now the recycler view is not supported. Right now the complex layouts are not supported.
No, but
They will be. That's why they kept it as pre-alpha, because they are adding lot of things to that.
But they support animations currently, Compose UI?
Not so much, yeah, no.
No. Thank you.
Yeah. But it is expected to support animations in future.
Yeah.
Yeah, any more questions? Cool. So I will wrap up my talk here, and these are some resources you can follow. Anyone here, if he is a React developer, then you can go to this presentation, React Meet Compose. It was by Leland Richardson himself. It was in a React conference. It was not on a Android Dev conference or not on a Kotlin conference. It was on a React conference, so you will connect better with that React Meet Compose. Yeah. Thank you so much.